The last time you stopped by a supermarket. You grabbed a pack of meat, paid at the checkout, and walked out. Maybe it took 10 or 15 minutes, and there was almost no danger involved. Now imagine living tens of thousands of years ago. That exact piece of meat wasn't sitting on a shelf. It was attached to an animal that weighed several tons, carried natural weapons on its head, and would happily kill anyone who got too close. So how did humans, a species with no claws, no fangs, and average running speed, become the most successful hunters the planet has ever seen? The answer wasn't a single trick. It was an incredible collection of strategies so clever, so calculated, and so advanced that scientists are still discovering new evidence for them today. Let's begin with one of the strangest hunting techniques ever invented, where the hunter's weapon barely does any work at all. For years, archaeologists found razor-sharp Clovis spear points buried inside mammoth skeletons across North America. The obvious conclusion seemed simple. Hunters must have thrown those spears directly at the animals. But in 2024, researchers at Berkeley tested that idea using physics. Their results completely challenged the traditional view. A human-thrown spear simply doesn't generate enough force to penetrate deep enough into a 6-ton mammoth to strike vital organs. The numbers don't add up. That meant prehistoric hunters were either relying on an ineffective method for thousands of years, or everyone had misunderstood how those spears were actually used. The evidence pointed towards something much smarter. Instead of throwing the spear, hunters planted it firmly into frozen ground, angled toward the charging animal, and moved out of the way. A mammoth charging at roughly 15 miles per hour creates around 67 times more impact force than even the strongest person can produce with a throw. The animal's own momentum became the weapon. As the mammoth crashed forward, it drove the spear into itself. Even more impressive, the Clovis point appears to have been engineered so that after entering the body, its mounting system caused catastrophic internal damage, behaving surprisingly similar to the expansion effect seen in modern hollow point ammunition. Rather than overpowering the mammoth, humans used its own weight and speed against it. Not every hunt depended on spears. Sometimes, ordinary rocks became deadly tools. For smaller prey, prehistoric hunters intentionally collected smooth, fist-sized stones that could be thrown accurately from about 25 meters away. This wasn't random guesswork. Studies of stone collections from South Africa's Cave of Hearths revealed that hunters repeatedly chose rocks within a very specific size and weight range, showing deliberate planning rather than convenience. Against much larger animals, the same principle was simply scaled up. Hunters would guide massive prey into narrow valleys or natural bottlenecks where escape routes disappeared. Meanwhile, other members of the group waited above on rocky ledges. Once the trapped animal entered the kill zone, enormous prepared stones were rolled or dropped from above. With nowhere to dodge, the animal faced danger from the sky itself. Elevation wasn't just protection for the hunters, it was the centerpiece of the entire strategy. Before we continue, let us know in the comments what country you're watching from. Now back to the story. Some prehistoric communities preferred never to stand face-to-face with dangerous animals in the first place. Instead of relying on weapons, they built landscapes that hunted for them. Seen from the air today, these structures resembled giant kites stretching across desert plains. Long stone walls extend for hundreds of meters before gradually narrowing into a funnel. Yet if you stood inside one at ground level, you might not even realize you were trapped. The walls were intentionally low, not high enough to block movement, but just high enough to gently influence it. Ancient builders understood a powerful psychological principle. You don't always need to physically imprison an animal. You only need to make one direction feel slightly easier than every other option. These enormous structures are known as desert kites. In 2022, 3 independent peer-reviewed studies confirmed that they functioned as massive hunting traps. Herds of gazelles and ibex were guided through narrowing corridors that eventually led to deep pits or steep cliffs. Their locations reveal an extraordinary understanding of seasonal migration and animal behavior. Even more remarkable is where these structures appear. Nearly identical hunting systems have been discovered in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Armenia, Kazakhstan, Slovenia, and even the Andes. These cultures had no contact with one another, yet they independently developed almost the exact same solution. Not because one copied another, but because intelligent minds facing the same challenge often arrive at the same brilliant answer. The next hunting technique becomes even more surprising because it abandoned brute force entirely. Instead, it relied on chemistry. In January 2026, researchers publishing in Science Advances revealed that 60,000-year-old arrowheads from South Africa's Umlatuzana rock shelter still contain traces of plant-derived poison. This discovery pushed the use of toxic arrows back tens of thousands of years earlier than scientists previously believed. The poison came from a plant known as the gift ball, whose natural alkaloids attack the cardiovascular system. Hunters had learned not only how to collect this dangerous substance, but also how to prepare it safely and coat tiny arrowheads that were never intended to kill instantly. That delay was the entire strategy. Ancient hunters had to understand cause and effect over time. They could shoot an animal, watch it disappear into the distance looking perfectly healthy, and still trust that hours later the poison would slowly bring it down. That level of thinking required chemistry, patience, tracking skills, and long-term planning working together inside the human mind 60,000 years before writing even existed. Even more astonishing, traditional hunters in southern Africa were still preparing poison from the very same plant using nearly identical methods as recently as the 18th century. The knowledge survived through oral teaching alone, passed from one generation to the next across roughly 50,000 years without ever being written down. Yet perhaps the most unbelievable hunting strategy of all required almost no equipment whatsoever. Humans simply refused to stop running. By predator standards, the human body seems poorly designed. We have no claws, weak teeth, fragile skin, poor night vision, and an unimpressive sprint compared to almost every serious hunter. But evolution gave us one extraordinary advantage. We can keep moving for an incredibly long time while staying cool. Humans possess up to 5 million sweat glands, more than any other animal. Wolves overheat during extended pursuits. Cheetahs must recover after explosive sprints lasting only seconds. Humans continue cooling themselves while maintaining a steady pace for hours. Our Achilles tendons store and release energy like biological springs. Our gluteus maximus, the largest muscle in the body, evolved specifically to stabilize long-distance running rather than simple walking. We also breathe independently of our stride, something four-legged mammals cannot do efficiently. Anthropologists have documented this technique, known as persistence hunting, among the San people of the Kalahari Desert. Hunters pursue kudu antelope under scorching temperatures exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit, covering 15 to 25 miles without stopping. The antelope easily wins every sprint, but its body cannot shed heat effectively through thick fur. After several exhausting hours, its internal temperature rises until it collapses from hyperthermia. The hunter simply walks up and finishes the hunt with a single strike. Imagine the experience from the animal's perspective. Every time it believes it has escaped, that same upright figure appears again, still following, never rushing, never giving up, never tiring. Nature prepared prey for predators that sprint, ambush, or chase briefly. It never prepared them for an opponent that simply keeps coming forever. Then, humans combined all of these techniques with something even more powerful than any weapon: communication. Language allowed planning before the hunt ever began. At Schningen in Germany, archaeologists uncovered 8 carefully crafted wooden spears alongside the butchered remains of 50 horses. That wasn't chance. It represents a carefully organized operation involving multiple hunters who understood where the herd would be, who stood in predetermined positions, and who executed the plan together without breaking formation. Someone created that strategy long before the first spear was thrown. Someone assigned responsibilities. Someone explained exactly what everyone needed to do. Finally, somewhere between 15,000 and 35,000 years ago, humans made a decision unlike anything seen elsewhere in nature. Instead of eliminating another top predator, they turned it into an ally. Archaeological discoveries in Jordan dating back about 11,500 years reveal dramatic increases in small animal remains showing signs of canine digestion. Meanwhile, cave art from Saudi Arabia, dating roughly 8 to 9,000 years ago, depicts dogs wearing collars and leashes while helping humans during coordinated hunts. Once the partnership between humans and dogs emerged, it spread across continents faster than almost any earlier innovation, because together they became far more effective than either species could ever be alone. Now think again about that quick visit to the grocery store. That package of meat represents the final chapter of a story that began over 300,000 years ago. A story of planted spears that relied on physics instead of muscle. Giant stone traps that used architecture instead of direct combat. Poisoned arrows that relied on chemistry instead of raw power. Carefully organized group hunts built on language, planning, and teamwork. Every one of these breakthroughs came from people with no laboratories, no textbooks, no universities, and no written records. They relied only on observation, experience, memory, and the knowledge passed down through generations. The truly astonishing part isn't how dangerous these hunting methods were, it's how unbelievably intelligent they were. And every person alive today exists because somewhere in their family tree, someone mastered those ideas well enough to survive.